You're listening to the Hella Well With Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Hella Well With Danielle podcast. I am Danielle Washington, your host, and I am super happy to have you here again. If you are new, welcome to the family. And if you are back, hey sis, thank you so much for joining us again. And this episode is going to be fire. Okay, I don't know why I just danced, but I just did. This episode, I have the amazing Evan Lasser of Evelyn Fit here to talk to us about the topic that we all want to know. Let's just keep it real. This is a topic we all are trying to find out the answers are. Why is it that we continue to diet and it's not working? And what are we doing wrong? What are we missing? In today's episode, she's really breaking down what are you missing? And one key point that she brings up is that it's not just about dieting or nutrition and exercise. Those are important, but there's one main piece that you're missing, and there's a couple other nuggets that you're missing that if you really are trying to lose weight. And I love that she comes from not just of like a background in nutrition and being a personal trainer, but she's been in this game. She has, done the dieting roller coaster and has vowed to help other women leave behind dieting because she says it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the long run. And we're training our kids these bad habits. And so I cannot wait for you guys to hear from her and all the good nuggets that I know she's about to break down because I got a lot of it. And I'm like, I'm going to change some things I do. But this episode today is brought to you by none other than me. The Travel is Our Therapy book, which is a self-care guided travel journal. And it talks about the 5 stages of travel from, dreaming about traveling, figuring out where to go. And there's a lot of like planning in that, as well as budgeting and how to figure out around that, the mindset behind traveling. And oftentimes we go on these amazing trips and we want to bring back some of the things we learned or the habits that we've changed, but we just don't know how. So it really goes from all the way from wanderlust all the way to I've gone on the trip, now what? And helps you kind of really be more mindful when you travel. So I will make sure to put that in the show notes. But let's get ready for a bomb show of learning why our diets aren't working and what are we missing and what can we do to make sure we actually really are doing what we need to do to be losing this weight. So let's go.
Thank you so much, Evelyn, for being here on the Hella Well with Danielle podcast. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I am so I love this conversation because I think this is a really good conversation. And I think weight and nutrition is something we think about, and we all try so hard to have this body and this whatever. And it just doesn't always seem to work. Before we really get into the meat of all this conversation, can you kind of just tell people about your journey, how you got here and, how you started Evelyn Fit?
Well, I was a middle school English teacher for 11 years, and I thought that was what I was supposed to be doing, truly. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and my master's in education. So, naturally, I thought that was just what I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. Flash forward in that time, I had children and I had always been very active, but, post children, trying to get back to my healthy weight just wasn't happening. So I had actually worked with somebody who was a fat loss hormonal coach, and she taught me so much that I just wanted to get certified. From there, I also got certified in personal training. So I was teaching full-time, coaching nutrition part-time, and personal training part-time.
Wow.
With 2 children at home. So I was very, very tired, not realizing that even though I learned so much about, the science behind what was happening with my body, I had not changed my mindset at all. So even though I had this wealth of information, I didn't have any habit change. I didn't have long lasting change. I was still kind of, on a semi-diet. Basically, years and years later, I'm realizing that something's got to give because this isn't sustainable to constantly question everything I put in my mouth, to constantly question every time I'm going to a party or a picnic and like, I don't want to eat what's there. Let me try to have a shake before, or, it's just almost obsessive, knowing the health behind it, but still not being in tune with myself. And that's when I started my mindset journey and never looked back from there, because literally reconnecting with my own needs, pairing that with, the science information changes everything.
You bring up such a good point. Like, I'll be the first one to admit I've never really been on a diet.
Okay.
I see food and I eat what I like. And I remember being in college, we had to take this nutrition class. I think my college took some crazy things, so these requirements, and that was one of the requirements. And I remember raising my hand. I was a lot smaller then. And I was like, well, how do you like gain weight? And everyone looked at me like I had like this row of death. I'm like, girl, that's a big problem, because I was very, very athletic as a child. Rest in peace to my athletic body.
Yeah.
And so I ran track. I played soccer year round, and so I was really muscular. I had these thick thighs. But, I was so skinny everywhere else. But I have a lot of friends who diet and whatever, and so I do understand the pain. And so I really want to get into like, let's jump into the question everyone is asking. I know all my friends who've tried like Weight Watchers, the keto diet, everything under the sun, and it's just not working for them. Like, what are they doing wrong, or what are they missing?
Oh, okay. So there's so much to this question. And I also have done the Atkins, the Weight Watchers. I've done this program with shakes and fasted for like 24 hours at a time, which every one of those diets can bring you some success in the short term. But, once that initial excitement of motivation, like I'm going to do this thing, wears off, you don't have a plan in place for maintenance. You don't have a plan in your mind for sustainability. So I think that the biggest factor that we're missing is not only realizing that losing weight and changing your body has to do with so much more than just food and exercise. Those are part of the picture. That's not the whole picture. And our intuition. So a part of it is that dieting has kind of made us dumber, in the sense that we have no idea what we want or need because we're so dependent on these rules. If it's Weight Watchers, we are completely connected to counting these points, or, making sure that we reach or don't go over our maximum for the day. So our focus is now on counting. If we're doing keto, we're 100% focused on getting enough fat and protein in for the day and not going over that recommended amount. If we're doing fasting, we're trying to white knuckle through not eating for, 12 to 24 hours. But none of those plans incorporates, how do I feel? Can I even recognize when I am hungry? Can I even recognize when my body is comfortable? There are very few people who can go on a diet and then sit down in front of a plate of food and not finish the whole thing. Because to them, Weight Watchers said, I don't know, my meal for lunchtime should be, I'm guessing, 15 points. So you make that 15-point plate and you eat it. Or, going back all the way back to when we were younger, when we first started ignoring this part of our body, our parents told us, eat your plate of food, finish that plate of food. And again, that's where it started. It really started there. If you think back to being an infant, I with both my daughters, bottle time, or I actually breastfed. So when it was time to feed them, they would literally turn their faces when they were done eating. So naturally, your primal instinct is, I'm comfortable, I'm done. I mean, I would literally have them on my breast and they would turn their face and they're done. So, it's not that we don't know what we're doing. It's that along the line, we were taught to ignore what we felt in the name of something else, whether it be your parents' rules or whatever diet it is that you're following.
Yeah.
So I think,
okay, you make it such a good point, because I think back to my childhood. So my parents are from the South and my dad was one of 8 kids. So he kind of thinks this way where he kind of like hides his food, but he eats really fast. Like it was like, I mean, I get the feeling that food may have been a little bit, sparse back then. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understand that, but like, it was a clear thing of eating all of everything on your plate. And it also reminds me of my favorite movie, not my favorite movie, but like, I hella loved Mommy Dearest. I don't know if you've seen the movie.
Yeah. Yes.
So, the whole, she has to eat the steak, and, Christina doesn't eat the steak. She's like, I'm not eating that. And then it's there the next day. And my parents try to get that every now and then, because I would tell them, I'm like, look, I'm full. I don't want to eat anymore. And they're like, no, you need to finish eating. And like,
yep.
I'm like, dude, I can't eat anymore. And they're like, nope, you're going to finish this plate.
Yep. We even had a little bit of, it was that we had definitely had that. There were 4 kids in my family. My dad had a much larger family, 13. My mom was of 8. So I do think there's some scarcity there around food that they definitely passed on to us. In our house, it was you're going to eat until you're done. Also, I felt like another thing that kind of interfered with our own thought processes is that whole, you can't have dessert until you finish your meal. So dessert almost feels like something you have to earn instead of just something that you can enjoy. So,
there's that wasn't an option. It was like,
it was a once in a while thing. Once in a while we had dessert, but it was definitely like your plate has to be completely empty in order for you to have that dessert.
Yeah, it's interesting. So like my friend Crystal Taylor, who's Fitness Not a Game, I had her on the summit I did earlier this year. And one of the things she talked about, we exercise, and she worked off.
Yeah.
And so like after, and it was just, we didn't even think anything about it. And now I totally think about it. I was like, oh, okay, great. Now I've worked out. I'm going to go treat myself to, some popsicle. And she's like, you're not a dog. Dog, you don't treat yourself because not because you work out. There's like, now that I've worked out, I can get this. There's no this, this reward that we do for treating ourselves. And I was like, oh, you make such a good point, because so many of us think, oh, I've exercised. That should count for me getting these extra donuts I'm going to get. And like, I got to believe there's some kind of craziness in the mindset of thinking you exercise, or I've had a good day. Now I can go and cheat this other way. Like, I got to believe that's not helping them.
Yeah, I feel like there's this whole connection between our food and our guilt and our shame and our reward system. So the opposite to what you're saying, I also think that there are people who believe that if I ate this donut, I now need to almost punish my body with an extra workout. And again, I think that just has to do with being completely disconnected. Your signals are totally crossed. Like our relationship with food is one that brings a lot of negativity and shame and guilt. And really, if you go down to the minimum, our basics here, food is meant for survival. So, if, for instance, I forgot to eat breakfast and I'm rushing to go to work, and when I get to work, there are donuts on the table. Some people would feel horribly guilty for eating that donut because it's sugar and I shouldn't have it, right? But the fact of the matter is, if I'm going to go 7 hours without eating and my only option is a donut, then guess what? That donut is good for me because it's going to keep me from getting nauseous. It's going to keep me from getting shaky. It is what's giving me sustenance in this moment. It may not be the salad you were thinking of, but it's going to keep you from now until you get home. So I feel like some of this has to come with us letting go of the control over food and just being able to enjoy it, especially in small increments. That's why I think it's so important for us to be able to do things like, if you're a chocolate fanatic, then have a little chocolate every single day. It feels less of an emergency. You don't have to binge on it on Saturday because you're allowed to have it whenever you want. And I feel like it takes some of that control away from the food and puts it back on you. I can have this whenever I want. Therefore, this thing is not bad. It's just something that I enjoy.
I love that. And it's not having this all or nothing mentality. You can have your cake literally, and still be able to keep off the weight. But, I'm assuming, listening to you, it's not just about exercising and food. It seems like there's something else that we're missing, because the diet industry is so huge and it's not going away anytime soon. Like, do these work, and do you need to do something in addition to dieting and exercising?
So I think that the very first step is to tell yourself that you can absolutely enjoy food and enjoy life and know that you can change your body. It just won't be overnight. You have to be in it for the long run. So trying a diet might bring you results in the next 2 weeks, but when you fall off of your diet, you're going to gain that weight back and then some. You know, if you can start making small changes daily, and I mean not taking things away from yourself, but adding things in, extra water, extra fiber, extra walks, you know, add things in, those habits are going to stick around forever, as opposed to saying, I'm going to cut out all carbs and sugar and lose 20 pounds by the end of the month. That being said, so your nutrition should be balanced. Exercise, depending on your goals, can be heavy lifting, you know, high intensity intervals if you're looking for that lean muscle physique. But if you're simply looking to lean out, have a stronger cardiovascular system, walking where it's at, you're going to lose weight by doing leisure walks. And the reason that happens is because of our cortisol. So cortisol is a hormone that's secreted by our adrenal glands. And it kind of gets a bad rap for being the stress hormone and the
fight or flight.
Yes, fight or flight, exactly. A lot of people call it the fat storing hormone. And it can become the fat storing hormone if it's elevated for too long. But in the right circumstances, when our insulin levels are neutralized, when we're getting enough sleep, when we are controlling our stress, when we are having enough water intake, when our nutrition is balanced, and when we're getting movement in, cortisol is actually our friend. It is what helps us wake up in the morning ready to go. It is what signals our brain to react when something is happening. You know, that if you figure, if you've ever been fearful of something and your body kind of feels heightened and a little bit uptight, that's your cortisol that actually just kicked in. So cortisol is our friend, but we kind of make it our enemy by creating an environment that forces it to store fat. And what I mean by that is,
how are we messing up our
yes,
cortisol?
We're doing it ourselves.
How can we be a better friend of cortisol?
So you want to be very friendly with your cortisol. You want to make sure that you are getting ample sleep, first of all. So your cortisol levels are at its lowest when your body is falling asleep, and it will stay low during your sleep and spike up when you wake up. Now, it being low and neutral will also force your insulin to become neutral, which means your body is actually in a fat burning state. Okay. Now, when we are exhausted, our body feels that stress, right? So now our cortisol levels are elevated all day long. Now, if you make this connection, your cortisol level is up, your body is tired. Now you are less inclined to want to get any movement in. You are more inclined to crave sugary, heavier starch foods, and your body feels stress. So if we're talking about the 5 most important aspects for health, and I call them my 5 pillars of health, it is sleep, which I think takes precedence to everything else. Stress, we cannot eliminate it, but we can find ways to change our reactions. Your water, everything in your body functions off of water. And, you know, you don't have to follow that old rule that says drink 8-ounce glasses of water during the day. You literally just have to aim for half of your body weight in ounces. You know, if you are a 150-pound woman, you're aiming for 75 ounces in water. Aiming for it doesn't have to be perfect. What you don't want to do is let yourself feel thirsty. Once you're starting
about the whole water thing, because, you know, I've heard so many different things between 8 glasses of water, and then I went and saw a kinesiologist who had me drinking a gallon a day of, I think it was distilled water, and doesn't matter what kind of water it is. And so it's just like, I drink water because it actually is the drink I kind of prefer. So it helps. But I'll be the first one to admit, I know I don't drink probably enough water because I'm definitely not getting 8 glasses, and I'm sure the heck ain't getting a gallon anymore.
No.
But yeah, I just don't, like, you hear, oh, water's so important. Water's so important. Can you explain what really, like, I know you talked a little bit about your body weight, but like why is water so important? Like,
so, I mean, if you think about the human body in and of itself, it's made up of 60 to 70% water. You literally cannot function without it. So when we're talking about its importance, we're talking about every single thing that you do as a human being is based on the fluid in your body. Not to mention your organs are also up to 70% fluid. Your joints are lubricated by your fluid intake. Your oxygenation is put into motion by your fluid intake. The fluid that protects your brain is increased with your water intake. Your whole body is dependent on the amount of water that you put into it. But that being said, it doesn't have to be like a specific measured amount. I am not going to drink a gallon of water a day. It depends on where you live. Also, I know my parents live in Florida on the West Coast, and you cannot drink their tap water.
Yeah, nasty.
So bad. I live in Connecticut, and our tap water is filtered with fluoride. So when you sip on it, it tastes like distilled water. So I can't say, if you're choosing between, for taste, you drink what you drink, but the fact your body needs the water. So I would say don't.
Electrolyte water, there's pH water, like there's all these different types of water.
Yeah.
And like I'm a Whole Foods junkie. And so
Love Whole Foods.
I look at all these different waters and I want to do better. And I just don't know. I'm like, should I get the distilled water? Should I get the smart water? Should I get the water electrolyte? Should I get the pH plus water? Like, I look at those different things and like, I want to do better, but I'm not so sure which one is
so your body literally just wants to be hydrated. So if you're going to go with the baseline spring water, that's totally fine. If you're looking at
upgrade the body,
if you want to upgrade your body, so you can look at if you're very active, especially like if you get very sweaty during your workouts, an electrolyte water is a good option. When you say the waters that have like lower alkaline, that has a lot to do with, or the pH, excuse me, that has a lot to do with diets that follow low alkaline, low acidity.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there are some programs that recommend like having very little alkaline in your body, but that's not for everybody. I mean, I'm drinking a regular purified bottle of water right now. Yeah. Nothing fancy.
And I'm drinking my tap water. But what's interesting is, and so I'll tell you a little bit about this. So this is a copper water bottle. I don't know if you've heard about some of these things. And so with drinking out of this bottle, they talked about there, energetically, it's been had some other energies, and it's supposed to be good for your hair and nails and a bunch of other different things, your immune system. And so like I've looked at stuff like this. I know other people who have like bottled waters that have crystals in it. And I like the fact that it has a little bit of something to it. And so I can't put anything in it. Like I can't put like lemon juice or like chia seeds. Like I remember reading by someone saying having lemon juice, lime juice and chia seeds was really good for detoxing your body. Once you put the chia seeds, sat there for a while.
I know.
That ain't right.
Yeah, you have to like guzzle that really quick.
Yeah, I mean, right away, solid. You let it sit for a bit. That nasty.
Yeah. It's just like a thick little.
Yeah. So this is awesome. So I'm playing myself buying all this overpriced water for no freaking reason.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at it, your body, it just needs to be hydrated. You don't want to feel thirsty. You don't want to let yourself get to that point where you're like, looking for water. You've already started to dehydrate at that point. And once you're starting to dehydrate now, your cortisol level is starting to increase because anything, even if you don't feel stressed out, if you're laying on the couch relaxing and you're feeling thirsty, your body is still getting a stress signal. It needs something that it's not being given.
And I'm constantly dehydrated, or I'm doing better now. So like every morning I roll over, instead of rolling over and grabbing my phone, I roll over and grab my bottle of water. And that's usually the last thing I have at night. But I have notoriously had migraines all of my life. And I know a lot of it has been from dehydration because I'll be in these hot places and I don't drink. So that goes back again to my childhood where we couldn't drink until we finished our food.
Yes.
Great. I'm not, because everyone looks at me crazy when I say this. And I'm like, this is what happened in our household. I don't know if our household was just crazy, but that's what it was. And so I just don't naturally drink a lot because, I had to wait to finish my food. And a lot of times I didn't finish my food, then I couldn't have the food. It was just this weird kind of dichotomy. I don't know.
We had that same thing. You'd have a drink served, but it was supposed to be for when your meal was finished.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I don't know. And I remember even on the rare occasion that we actually went out to like a restaurant, you would order your meal. The waitress always has you order your drink first. Exactly. And like we'd take a sip and my parents would be like, that's it. Now save the rest until dinner's over. I think that all just kind of boils back to that scarcity around the food. Like, don't fill yourself up because you're going to be hungry if you don't finish that plate. Where, I feel like the lesson has to be, even if you don't finish that plate of food, you can save it and eat it later when you're actually hungry.
Yes.
You can just put it away. And I feel like when you know better, then you do better. I know for my daughters, I did find myself when my oldest was like 2 or 3, I would say to her, you have to eat your dinner or you can't have that dessert. And I caught myself saying, like, why am I putting that in her head? Why am I making it seem like dessert is a reward? Because eventually she will start connecting that with other rewards. So our conversations have just changed completely. I serve a small portion of dinner and I let them know, if your belly's still hungry, there's more food. If your belly is full, stop eating. We can just put it away and you can finish it later. No big deal.
If you look at Americans, I'm not saying this is your family, but like I lived in Italy for 2 years, and then coming back here, I'm like, these plates are freaking hella big. Like they're like piled on food. Or if you look at, you go to, cousin June's barbecue, and everyone has these like paper plates, and they're putting everything under the sun on it. And it's like, and then when you have the mentality of we have to eat everything, in addition to that, we just overeat. Like, is there something behind that with Americans, or is it just this is our culture and this is how we do it?
I feel like as time has gone on, it just gets more and more and more. If you like everything, I feel like as a society, we want bigger and better everything. Yeah. Bigger house, better car, bigger jobs, bigger bank accounts, bigger meals.
Everything in our life.
Yeah, everything. Supersize everything. Yeah, and so much that if you don't follow that mentality, you get a little bit of judgment against you. I'll go to a picnic and I'm comfortable having a burger and like a side salad, and I'm going to stop when my stomach is comfortable. I don't want to have that overly full feeling, because then I don't want to move around and I don't want to interact with anybody. I'm uncomfortable and I just want to go to sleep. But so the comments will come, oh, you're eating like a bird, or, is that even going to fill you up? And yes, actually it is.
So like, what are like common mistakes that you see people making that you would like, if I can get everyone to stop doing these X things, we can be a healthier society?
Yeah. Okay. So I think that number one is believing that changing your body has to be all or nothing, because it doesn't. You can incorporate healthy meals, you can incorporate some movement, and you can still enjoy foods that are sweet and satisfying without having to feel that guilt. So it doesn't have to be, I'm going to go on a diet and I'm going to take all the joy out of my meals. It's not all or nothing. I think another big mistake is that people start immediately cutting out whole food groups. I want to lose weight, so I'm not going to eat bread anymore. So now bread becomes like the villain. And every time you see it, you're focusing on, like, you feel deprived.
Yeah.
And deprivation is not a motivator. I mean, it's not. It's not motivating at all. It makes you feel horrible, because then you're judging yourself for not being able to control yourself around that food that you want. Another mistake I feel like is, I'm going to try this diet because it worked for Danielle.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it worked for Danielle, then clearly I'm the issue. The diet's not the issue. I am. So if I could just be more motivated and disciplined like Danielle, then it's going to work for me too.
Yeah, you see that happening all the time because people are like, oh, girl, you should try this. You should try this. This worked for me. And it's the same thing with hair. It's like, we were talking about
Yes.
a little bit earlier. It's like, oh, this product was the bomb. It was perfect for me, but it may not work for you. And like our bodies are different. Our DNAs are different. And it makes logical sense that one diet may work for one and may not work for another. And your habits are different.
Your habits are different. Your needs are different. Your metabolic makeup is different. Like, just simply this. If I'm in the house with my husband, right? And our bodies process completely differently. And it's not just a male female thing. Females process differently too. Me specifically, if I eat something like, I don't know, eggs and bacon with some fruit, I'm comfortable for hours. Where my husband will eat that and he needs some starch. He wants some toast or a roll with his egg sandwich because that starch is what makes him feel comfortable. So we can never say eliminate all starches for a better body when you're getting that better body in the name of deprivation and misery around your food. Like if I had to tell my husband you can never eat bread, pasta, or rice again, he'd probably lose his mind. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. You can have something, it definitely makes a difference. Like I grew up eating, I love Mexican food. And then as an adult, I got adult onset allergies. So I can't eat soy or corn, which hella sucks. Thought it was a joke. But then I realized when I tried to test myself that, oh, this really is. It feels like I have whiplash with the worst hangover I've ever had.
Yeah.
And it's not the happiest feeling, but I now can't eat corn. And like, I don't care about like corn syrup and stuff like products like that. Like, 'cause I can't have those, but I don't really care for like Coke and all those things. I never really drink stuff in the first place. But some corn tortillas or some tortilla chips. And so I have to, and it's such a struggle when I go to a Mexican restaurant. I'm like, no, please don't put those in the bag. I know.
Yeah. I'm kind of struggling with that recently because I've been off the diet roller coaster for so long and just literally eating things that I like. But I've always had this strange discomfort in my stomach when I eat. I for as long as I can remember. This last year, I've been waking up pain in my hands and swelling. So I finally went to see a naturopath and he ordered some food allergy testing. And it turns out that I am allergic to so much soy, yeast.
It's in everything.
Yes, gluten, eggs, seeds, dairy. So I had to do a 3-week elimination where I could literally only eat the things I wasn't allergic to, which is protein, some fruit, and some veggies. No sauces, no oils, because I also don't have a gallbladder. That's a whole other issue.
Oh.
But let me tell you, in that 3 weeks, I went through that whole dieting roller coaster, that deprivation of like, of course it came from a different mindset. It wasn't like I'm depriving myself because I want to lose weight. It's just, I want to not be in pain anymore. So I'm going to try this. But that whole feeling of like, I'm not even satisfied from my meal. I'm still hungry. I want something else. Like just that constant thinking about food. So it just makes you think like how much food has controlled so many parts of my life until this point where now it's controlling me in a different sense, but not from losing weight. The point is that sometimes we're trying all this deprivation in the name of looking better when we're not feeling better,
Yeah, it just sucks. I mean, the extreme of it is going people bulimic and other things like that. And, you have to get to that level, but we put our bodies through so much to get to this size, and like we'll do all these diets, and I just feel like we're still unhappy. Like if you made the quote, what was the quote? Sorry, I wrote it down somewhere. So it was like, you'll be a smaller version of your unhappy self. Yeah. You're still going to rebound.
Yes. That is the truth. I mean, you if you can break it down and say to yourself, like, what is it that I really want from this life? For me, I want to have a strong relationship with my husband. I want to have a happy, healthy family. And I want to be the best role model I can be to my daughters. So I ask myself, if those are the things I want the most out of this life, and that's what makes me feel fulfilled, would I get those things any differently if I were thinner? Like, no. My size literally does not affect my goals in life. So why for so long did it control my every thought, And I see so many women like go on these harsh diets before the summertime. I'm going to lose X amount of weight so I can look good in a bikini.
Body.
Yes, summer body. Why? Does the water feel different on your skin when you're smaller? Do you enjoy the pool differently when your body looks different? No, it's hot. You get in the water and it feels damn good. And especially if you have kids, they could care less what you look like in your bathing suit. They just want you to be outside with them.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Like basically what you're saying is like, you can't be happy or healthy with external stuff. It all comes from within.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like we force ourselves so hard to get these ideal bodies because we believe that's what's making us unhappy. But the second we lose weight, if we reach our goals, we're still going to feel that unhappiness because we didn't deal with what was really bothering us. We didn't deal with, why we're making those choices. We didn't deal with why we have this negative relationship with food. If you didn't handle the real issue, like you said, we're going to be a smaller version and still unhappy.
Yeah. And it sounds like I hear you, and like I'm listening to all the different pieces of all the things you need and all these different things. And, these quick fixes can work, but you're still going to rebound, and because you aren't hitting the core of what the situation is really, of what you're going through. And it sounds like a lot of this is coming, like when you're trying to change your body, you can't change your body from a place of hate, but like it's a mindset. It sounds like mindset is kind of like the real, it's like exercise, nutrition, sleep, water, and mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like mindset has to change first. You can start making like small incremental changes that will benefit you physically. But once you change your mind, your body will follow suit because you will naturally start making choices that feel better to you. Once you are focusing on how you feel, focusing on your intuition, focusing on how your meal actually makes you feel. Was I satisfied by that? Am I comfortable after I eat this meal? Did I even like that meal? Once you start focusing on that, then you're more inclined to make decisions that help you keep feeling that way. You're not going to like deprive yourself and follow this diet and reach this goal weight and then poof, wake up and say, look at that shit. I am happy today.
And that's putting off your happiness. I was talking about that earlier this week. It's like, we keep putting off our happiness. I'm going to be happy once I get to a certain weight. I'm going to be happy once I get that job. I'm going to be happy. Girl, please stop. Because if you keep like putting parameters, once this happens, then I can be happy. Okay, when you get that, you're most likely not going to be happy because you're going to put another, it's like you keep pushing the goal further and further away. So the point you die and you're like,
I wish I would have. I wish I would have. I wish I would have.
I wish I would have. You had a good point earlier, and I wanted to go back to that. You talked about making incremental changes versus like big changes. Like, 'cause I know a lot of people, like, especially beginning of the year, they're like, all right, it's fine in my body. I'm going to see New Year's, new me. I'm going to get myself right. They cut out everything. They try 50 million diets. And it seems like, I know in habit changing in general, that's not a good idea.
No. And again, that making so many changes so quickly just increases that cortisol level. Your body is under stress, mental and physical now, because you are making changes and eating foods that you don't necessarily even want or enjoy. That's a form of stress. You are feeling deprived. That's another form of stress. You may not be satiated by these meals. That's another form of stress. And then you're adding in these very intense exercise for long durations of time, which is another form of stress. So essentially, you're doing all these things in the name of changing your body and making it smaller, but you're actually stressing your body so much that it potentially is going to have to feel forced to hold on to all that fat. Because when your body is in that state of stress, your cortisol levels increase so much that it feels that fight or flight and like, I have to hold on to everything because something is not right. Something's not right. So those small changes are what's going to be sustainable for you. And it's going to be what leads to lifelong changes. It takes 21 to 28 days to formulate a new habit. So I try to tell, especially when I work with clients, the very first thing we do is choose one thing that they're going to add into their day. I don't care if it's water.
For all clients, or is it really based on each person?
I think each person is different. You know, some people feel completely at a loss. And once in a while, I will recommend doing some calorie tracking just because if you've never done it before and you don't know what you're actually taking in a day, it's kind of eye-opening to see like I'm taking in this in excess and I still don't feel good. So sometimes I recommend that for a week or two only and pair it with being mindful. And I mean literally questioning yourself when you sit down and have your meal, when you get halfway through your meal, like be present and question yourself. How am I feeling right now? Am I comfortable? Have I had some water? Could I eat more? Okay. I even recommend when you serve your plate of food, eat 3/4 of it and intentionally leave 1/4 of it, just so that you can break that habit of, I have to finish this plate of food. And you can see for yourself, generally 20 minutes after your meal is finished, you're like, wow, I am totally comfortable and I would have eaten that and not even have needed it. So it's kind of eye-opening in that sense, like leave it there, come back. If you're hungry, by all means, come back to it and finish your plate. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to notice it was there and I didn't even really want or need it. So making small changes like that, making yourself tune back into your needs. I feel like another huge thing that we do is we eat on the move, or we eat like speed eating on a break, or multitasking. Yes.
Paying attention to what we're doing.
The television, the scrolling through social media, you know, all those things are taking you away from your very intuition, what your body needs to figure out if it's actually comfortable with that meal. So if you're eating in distraction, you're never actually paying attention and you're just going to eat everything that's there regardless because it was there. That's when you notice, 20 minutes later, you're sitting down and relaxing on the couch and it's like, oh my gosh, I have a stomachache. I overate. That's because you ate completely distracted.
Yeah, and our body knows, like, the more I become more in tune with my body, the more I understand, oh, don't eat these things or don't go here. Like, I just listen more and I've noticed the difference. Like, my body will tell me, like, B, I think it's time for you to drink something.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh, it's time to, like, don't eat that. Like, sometimes I'll eat certain things and my body's like, no, that's not for you. So you need to, and I'll just stop. And it doesn't always make logical sense. I'm just like, I like this. Yeah. But my body will have moments where I'm like, in the times when I don't listen, I'm like, I'll have like upset stomach or something else. And so I'm like, so I listen to my body a lot more. Yeah. But like this conversation has been so good. Like, I feel like we could go on forever because and all these other things have been great. I hella appreciate you being on here.
I love this conversation.
This is so great because I think this is something that we're always trying to lose weight, but wondering why it's not working. So I love that you've answered, why aren't we losing the weight? Even though we are trying everything. I know you have a bunch of things coming up soon. I think you're doing
So I actually created a program for moms who are looking to get off that dieting cycle because, like me, they were just done with, the mental parts of it. So my program is based on mindset, intuition, and the 5 pillars of health. That's being released the first week of December. And I also...
So you don't have a link for that just yet, but you'll have a link coming up soon.
I do have a link, actually. I think I emailed it to you, but I can double check and put it out there. I was going to offer for the first 20 people that signed up $75 off. Okay, so it would be...
That's $75. Yeah. Run and get your body right.
Yes,
the right way.
and not have to ever start over again. That's the key, is to get your mind right, get your intuition in check. There is a nutrition and exercise portion attached to it as well. But really with the intention of you never having to start over again, because, the dieting just takes way too much of our mental energy, way too much of it.
We'll make sure to have that in the show notes. And how can other people find you and follow you, like on social media? How can they also support you in any way?
So I am at Evelyn Lavasser Fitness, and that is both on Instagram and Facebook. And my website is evelynfit.com.
Love it. I love it. So every guest, I ask these quick fire questions.
Okay.
So everyone starts freaking out when I say, I'm like, it's easy. It's hard, but these are questions I like to ask. So,
all right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. First question is, what does living hella well mean to you?
Oh, it means eliminating any stress that comes from the outside and just feeling good.
All right. Aisle or window?
Ooh, window.
Okay. What is always in your travel bag?
A good book, some moisturizer. Don't laugh, I have asthma, so always an inhaler.
You trying to save your life.
I gotta save my life. And my phone is always jam-packed with music because I have to listen all the time.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, what's your go-to song for?
Well, it's different.
Yourself?
If I am working out, then I want like some fast-paced reggae. If I am doing yard work, I don't know what it is, but I have to listen to some gangster rap. If I am doing housework, then the Spanish music is going. It is. It's like gangster rap outside. I have the Spanish music or some, old school R&B if I'm doing housework. Yeah.
I hear you. Okay. And my last question to you is, what advice would you give to yourself in regards to living, putting on your oxygen mask versus making yourself a priority?
If I knew even 10 years ago what I know now, I would tell myself that you promised to be not a good mother, an extraordinary one. And you cannot do that if you're not taking care of you first. And no matter how much you want things to be for your children, they can never be that because you're teaching them to put themselves last by putting yourself last. I was putting myself last with everything and realizing that when they got older, that's exactly what they would do to themselves because they learned it from me.
Yeah, we teach them how to treat ourselves. So, oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you so much for being here. This was such a great episode. If you guys got something out of it, definitely, leave a note in the comments on Facebook. In our Facebook group, if you're in our Facebook group, we have the Wellness Revolution for Women of Color Facebook group. If we're on Instagram, just give us some nuggets. If you are talking about Evelyn or what she said, you got something, just let us know. Tag both of us in it so that we know that we've got this information because it's just some very important stuff
Yes.
to, get the mindset right and make some changes. Like you can tell your future by the habits that you have.
Absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
Right. We'll see you guys next week and I'll talk to y'all later.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Hella Well With Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellawellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hella Well With Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hella Well Danny on Twitter. And if you like hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.